Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Pennsylvania Veterinary Laboratory. I'm Dr. Alex Hamburg, the state veterinarian. It's great to see so many of our partners, producers, colleagues all gathered here today. You know, it's an honor to really be surrounded by these folks that all share a very common purpose, which is protecting the health of Pennsylvania's animals. And with that, the strength of our entire agriculture industry is based. This laboratory, along with our partner labs at Penn State, the Animal Diagnostic Laboratory, New Bolton Center at University of Pennsylvania, make up the Pennsylvania Animal Diagnostic Laboratory System, very soon to be joined by the Keystone Animal Diagnostic Laboratory out in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. Together, these labs are the backbone of our animal health infrastructure, and they are a critical component in the defense against disease. Last year, Paddles, the entire system, processed more than 672,000 samples for diagnostic purposes, including over 200,000 poultry samples and 29,000 cattle samples tested for avian influenza. Every one of those tests represents a farm, a family, a business, depending on accurate and timely results to protect their animals. Every one of the, as we know all too well, highly pathogenic avian influenza remains one of the greatest threats to our animals today. Pennsylvania has first detected highly pathogenic avian influenza in 2022, and since then we've seen how quickly it can spread. Pennsylvania is now responding to positive cases in 6 Lancaster County locations, affecting nearly 60,000 birds. Nationwide, the USDA has reported that there are at least 34 commercial and 34 backyard flocks currently affected, accounting for over 3.5 million birds, and there's more being identified each week. This virus is almost always fatal to birds, and it poses a tremendous risk to our poultry industry, which is one of the top sectors in Pennsylvania's $132 billion agricultural industry. Pennsylvania first detected highly pathogenic avian influenza in 2022, and since then we've seen how quickly it can move. Since April 2022, Pennsylvania has lost more than 7.1 million birds in 41 commercial flocks, 53 backyard flocks, and affecting 23 of our counties. Each detection reminds us that no farm, no region, no avian species is entirely without risk. As we've seen in other states, highly pathogenic avian influenza infection in dairy cows has impacted operations and caused further losses in nearby poultry flocks. Pennsylvania was an early adopter of the mandatory milk testing, and through the diligent efforts and partnership with our industry partners, we've been able to improve biosecurity and ensure early detection and a robust and speedy response if high path AI were to be detected in cattle in Pennsylvania. But there's good news. Every detection reminds us that our system works. Our laboratories are testing and supporting the response at the highest level. Our Department of Agriculture team is coordinating in real time with USDA, local veterinarians, producers, farmers, and industry partners to make sure that our farmers have stronger biosecurity than ever, and they are largely stepping up and getting that done. As a veterinarian, I can tell you that biosecurity is still our best defense. Response to high path AI might start in the laboratory, but prevention of high path AI starts at the farm gate. This means controlling who enters the farm, what enters the farm, ensuring equipment is kept clean and sanitary, minimizing contact with birds, making sure everyone who sets foot on that farm follows strict sanitation procedures, ensuring that people are wearing proper personal protective equipment and dedicated farm clothing to ensure that we are not bringing virus to the birds. We're encouraging every poultry producer in Pennsylvania, no matter the size or type of operation, to have a written biosecurity plan and to take advantage of the many resources available, including the Centers of Excellence, USDA's free wildlife biosecurity assessments. These are simple, practical tools that can make a huge difference in keeping flocks safe. And when producers do face an outbreak, we need to reassure them they are not alone. The strength of Pennsylvania's response comes from teamwork from our lab scientists here at the vet lab and our partner labs, field veterinarians, our partners at Penn State, New Bolton Center, USDA, Penn Ag, throughout industry, as well as the resources provided to us by the legislature to accomplish this gargantuan task. Together, we're learning, adapting, and becoming more resilient every season. That collective vigilance and action is keeping Pennsylvania agriculture strong and keeping our poultry safe. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone who has been a steadfast advocate for our animal health and agriculture, Deputy Secretary Lisa Graybeal.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburg. Good afternoon, everyone, on this beautiful fall afternoon. As the Deputy Secretary who oversees the Bureau of Animal Health and Diagnostic Services, I am privileged, and I say privileged, to work with our amazing teams, labs, as Dr. Hamburg noted, including the Animal Diagnostic Lab up at Penn State and our lab at the University of Pennsylvania's New Bolton Center. We are incredibly fortunate in Pennsylvania to have these resources, and I thank everyone for the critical work you do every single day. What happens inside these walls behind me here and in our other partnering labs is fundamental to protecting our farms, our food supply, our economy, and our public well-being. Our Bureau staff, scientists, veterinarians, and technicians are the behind-the-scenes, unsung public health assets standing guard over Pennsylvania agriculture. Many on our teams show up to do this critical work. They're working late at night, they're coming in on weekends, and they've been called out on several holidays because they know they are the frontline defense against animal diseases. Together, our 3 labs that make up the paddle system processed tens of thousands of samples last year. Imagine that, tens of thousands of samples, testing, diagnosing, and helping to contain disease before it spreads further. When HPAI strikes, time is of the essence. Our paddles laboratories rapidly process results that inform swift containment strategies. Their vigilance helps protect Pennsylvania's $7 billion poultry industry, safeguards food safety, keeps trade channels open, and ensures that farmers, producers, and communities can act decisively to prevent the spread of disease. But our Bureau does more than respond to crises. Every day, they monitor for a wide range of animal illnesses, and their work reinforces biosecurity, it supports agricultural resilience, and safeguards animal and public health. Governor Shapiro understands that protecting animal health means protecting Pennsylvania's economy. This means leading the nation in quarantine orders, including poultry, dairy, and live bird markets. Under his leadership and with bipartisan support in the legislature, we're expanding our diagnostic capacity and strengthening our response network. A 4th veterinary laboratory is now under renovation at Penn State's Beaver campus in Western Pennsylvania. We're really excited for this. It was funded with $6 million in the 2024-25 budget. Then the governor's 2025-26 budget proposal adds another $2 million to launch operations there once it opens. This new lab will speed up testing, it'll reduce response times, and make services more accessible for our farmers in Western Pennsylvania, all while strengthening our statewide ability to detect and respond to emerging diseases. But science alone isn't enough. The heart of our response is still the partnerships among state and federal governments, veterinarians, industry, and farmers. We've learned through HPAI that prevention and preparedness must go hand in hand with recovery and resilience. That's why Pennsylvania has invested $25 million in each of the last 3 state budgets into the HPAI Recovery Fund, now holding $50 million in reserve to make sure that when a producer is hit, help is right there. This was a bipartisan effort, with the administration and legislature coming together to create the only fund of its kind in the nation. So far, through HPAI recovery grants, we've distributed $15.7 million to 292 farmers and poultry businesses, helping them rebuild and strengthen their operations. And Governor Shapiro's 25-26 budget calls for another $11 million to ensure that that support continues. That is what leadership looks like: investing in science, expanding capacity, and standing with farmers when times are toughest. Pennsylvania's $132.5 billion ag industry is more than an economic engine. It's part of who we are. And under Governor Shapiro's leadership, we're building not just a stronger response to disease, but a more resilient future for all of Pennsylvania agriculture. The story of that resilience is best told by the people who live it every day, and that's our farmers. One of those producers is here with us today. Michael Martz from Martz Game Farm experienced on Christmas Day, nonetheless, firsthand the challenges of avian influenza and the hard work of recovery. Michael's story shows what's possible when science, government, and farmers work together toward one goal: protecting Pennsylvania agriculture. It's my honor to welcome Michael Martz to share his story with us today. Michael?
I'd like to thank Deputy Graybeal, and I think the biggest thing that she said was about one particular word: bipartisan. There's been so many times where people have turned this somehow into a partisan issue across the country, avian influenza of all things. Well, as somebody that experienced it, I can guarantee you it doesn't care what party you're from, it doesn't care what age, it doesn't care what color you are, it doesn't discriminate. So the one thing I'm just going to talk about briefly about our experience and the way the Pennsylvania Department of Ag helped us, in addition to many others. Back in December of 21, Labrador, Canada, the first case was found in a wild duck. And I remember seeing that in the news and thinking, I just hope it doesn't come down here. Things eventually progressed, obviously. And in 2022, we started to see our first cases in our country. Something that we took very serious initially. We did not get diagnosed till December of 2023. We were practicing sound biosecurity initially and took this virus seriously. So it just does show that it can happen to anybody. But biosecurity is very important. After genome sequencing of the virus done by the USDA, it was determined with a greater than 95% probability it wasn't drug into our farm, but rather it came from a wild bird introduction from a red-tailed hawk. Fallout of this was the most devastating thing that ever happened in our farm's 70 years. I'm a third-generation operator. I love what I do. I want to be able to send it on to the fourth generation. I can tell you that the first thing we did was we prayed about it upon diagnosis, and then we basically just reassured employees that everything was going to be okay, and we reassured customers, and most importantly, we also informed our neighboring farms, because that's the catch side to biosecurity. You try not to drag something in until you get something, then you try not to drag it out. And I feel like the Pennsylvania Department of Ag, the way they helped us with biosecurity right from the start, it helped us from dragging it to a neighboring farm because there were no other farms that were infected. Some might say, if your biosecurity was adequate, how'd you get HPAI? And as I said before, it could happen to any of us. But the one other thing that it did for those that have multi-premises is our biosecurity procedures allowed it to stay on one premise, and we were able to save the birds on 4 other premises because of a biosecurity plan and because we followed that plan and we could demonstrate that. As far as the Pennsylvania Department of Ag and Penn Ag, Chris Herr is here. He was there, by the way, Christmas Eve day with us. These folks had empathy. They didn't care, who was a Republican, who was a Democrat. They were both of them politicians there. Our administration, the Shapiro administration at that time, Dr. Russell Redding, great to work with. Dr. Hamburg was there. But they had empathy for what we were going on. And one thing I'll never forget, when we got diagnosed and I met our case coordinator from the Pennsylvania Department of Ag, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a Republican, okay? Some of us aren't known to trust government the most, even though we've had a good relationship with the PDA all these years. I asked our case coordinator from the PDA a lot of questions, and she winked at me and she said, Mike, she's like, we're the government, we're here to help. And I knew everything was going to be okay at that point. And we had a lot of good federal resources, and these folks from the PDA were here with us Christmas Eve day, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve day, New Year's Day. And not only do I consider them, they gained a lot of my respect, I also consider a lot of them friends to this day for what they did for us. I'll never forget it. My final words are twofold. Government employees that deal with these types of situations, I hope they all deal like our Pennsylvania Department of Ag folks did. They had empathy, they had common sense, and most of all, they kept things safe and advised us right. Second of all, for any producers that get it, my advice is to work with these people, realize they're human beings, realize that if you can look at it in that light and you cooperate, you're going to get much better results, and you're going to get have the potential to get a lot better help down the road from these recovery grants and from the biosecurity grants. And lastly, we have used biosecurity grant money for a laser system to deter wild birds since that time. We used biosecurity grant money for Danish entries before that, and also we cost shared commercial crate washer to wash plastic crates. So we're very thankful for these programs in Pennsylvania, and I have no doubt that after this is all said and done, many years down the road, I know Pennsylvania is we're going to get through this, number one, and number two, Pennsylvania is going to be seen as the leader in the United States as far as what they've done as a state towards combating high-path AI. Thank you, and I think State Representative, are you next?
Eddie Good to be with you. Thank you. I think Chris Hers first. Chris.
Oh, you can introduce me. How about you go first?
I'll introduce you then, Chris.
We'll mix it up. That's all right.
That's all right. This is our first show, so you got to bear with us. It is truly an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with these outstanding individuals, our scientists, people who care and have done such incredible work. My name is State Representative Eddie Pashinsky. I have the honor of serving as a representative, but I also have the honor of serving as the Democratic Chair of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee since 2017. Mr. March, you had mentioned some things about bipartisanship between Democrats and Republicans. I've had the pleasure of serving with Chairman Dan Mao, Republican Chairman, since 2021, and together we've worked side by side for the past 5 years to try to strengthen our Pennsylvania agriculture industry. One of the clearest examples of that bipartisan cooperation is our joint effort to protect Pennsylvania's poultry operators, especially against the threats of highly pathogenic avian influenza, high-path AI. Back in 2019, I also had the pleasure of working with Chairman Marty Causer, along with Governor Wolf and Secretary Redding, all our partners of the Senate, to pass this historic Pennsylvania Farm Bill, the first state in the entire nation to pass a farm bill. And I think I want everybody to just remind the people, that was bipartisan. We came together for the betterment of the people of Pennsylvania, for the ag industry, which plays such a role in our economy. That farm bill completely changed how the Department of Agriculture works with our state's farmers. It includes 9 separate bills creating 17 different programs, all of which have proven to be very successful. When high-path entered Pennsylvania in 2022, for the first time in decades, I worked with my colleagues to secure $31 million in that year's budget to protect $7.1 billion of the actual chicken industry. The funding created the High-Path Identification Grant Program, which helps poultry operators recover losses not covered by USDA and insurance. I want to repeat that. Not covered by USDA or insurance. This is that Pennsylvania bill to help our Pennsylvania farmers. Since then, we have appropriated a total of $75 million into this program. These funds not only help our farmers, but also help stabilize grocery prices and ensure Pennsylvanians continue to have chicken and eggs, something I know we all love. Each year since 2022, we've also helped secure $6 million for HPAI testing across our 3 animal diagnostic labs. Deputy Secretary had mentioned those, and I think it's important we mention them again. We have 3, and we worked hard now to get a 4th in Western Pennsylvania. Penn Vet, New Bolton Center in Kennett Square, Penn State's Animal Diagnostic Lab in University Park, and here at the Department of Agriculture's Veterinary Laboratory. I'm proud to say that we are expanding the system in Western Pennsylvania. That funding started in the budget of 2024, our 4th diagnostic lab. This will open later this year, and it increases our state testing capacity and response time. Response time is key. You heard Mr. Martz mention, because of our response time, we were able to save other chicken poultry farms because of that. This past year, I also worked with my colleagues to modernize the poultry technician licensure law. That change allows all farm workers in Pennsylvania to become certified poultry technicians, a key frontline defense against high path. On-site testing that day, not waiting for someone to come to the farm, waiting to take it somewhere. You have that testing right there on that farm. Time, as I mentioned before, is valuable in protecting the rest of those poultry areas and that particular farm. That legislation, House Bill 324 by Representative Cepeda Freites, was signed into law by Governor Shapiro on February 6th as Act 1, 2025. A strong statement of how important our poultry industry in the state of Pennsylvania. I also want to do a shout out to Secretary Redding. I want everybody to realize what an important role Secretary Redding plays. This guy knows his stuff inside and out. He not only went to colleges and got educated, he worked on those farms and got educated. And he works and travels all over the state, making sure that Pennsylvania is #1. We have the #1 farm bill. No other state has that. And that farm bill is there to help create new farmers on the way up, educate everyone, and make sure we protect this great industry. I've always believed that supporting agriculture means supporting Pennsylvania farmers, consumers, communities, and in so doing, supporting our #1 industry, over 593,000 employees, generating $132.5 billion. That's pretty darn good, isn't it? I'm very proud that we've accomplished together, and I look forward when we work together, these are the results, continuing a bipartisan work to protect and grow Pennsylvania agriculture and the poultry industry for years to come. Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to present Chris Herr, Penn Ag Executive Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Representative. Good to be here. My name is Christian Herr, the Executive Vice President of Penn Ag Industries. We represent about 450 agribusiness companies in Pennsylvania and a majority of the poultry industry also. It's great to be here with Mike on better circumstances, but Mike can attest how personal this issue is. I've been on at least 40 farms. I've looked into the eyes of farmers, and it's been great to knowing what they're going through, to be able to know that the resources that Pennsylvania has are unprecedented. And as Representative Pshinski has noted, it has been very, very bipartisan. Very proud of the fact that the first piece of legislation in 2025 was the Poultry Tech Act, and I can tell you 100% of his delegation supported it. So thank you for that. We are in a state where our poultry industry is very diverse. Representative Pshinski mentioned chickens, but we've unfortunately had to depopulate ducks, game birds, broilers, layers, geese, a host of other more exotic live bird market type birds. So we are very diverse and we're very dense. You take a county like Lancaster County, one of the top 5 ag counties in America, shared with 550,000 people. makes us very vulnerable. You couldn't really talk about this issue without talking about the partnerships. The partnerships with Penn State, and you'll hear from Dr. Boney in a second, the laboratory system, the Department of Agriculture here at Pennsylvania, the legislature, the unprecedented support of the legislature and the last two governors, Secretary Redding and the great staff. Have been shoulder to shoulder with many of PDA's employees, working on this, and it's a tremendous partnership. Standing in front of the diagnostic laboratory, and Dr. Tawari, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but probably very close to a quarter to a third of all tests done in America, every state affected by avian influenza, a third of those tests done in America were done at our laboratory system. Something to be very, very, very proud of. We pride ourselves on being national leaders. 25 years ago, when I was at the Department of Agriculture serving with Secretary Redding, I had a secretary in a southern state say to me, "What are you guys doing looking for avian influenza? You might find it." Well, I think that still to this day, much of the country has the philosophy that out of sight, out of mind. We would much rather know that we have it here, be able to address it. I know, just last week, in a matter of hours, birds were put down on 2 different farms. That's what's going to prevent this, and that's what's going to get us out of this. The aggressive nature of what we have here and the resources we have, the support of the universities at Penn and Penn State, and an industry that's really come together. The folks that I represent, by and large, are competitors, but they've seen the value of working together, and really, really proud of that effort. So again, thank you for giving me a few minutes to point this out. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world. It's very emotional. It's hard on the people who have to deal with it. But again, knowing that we have the kind of resources that we have, the support from our governor, our Secretary of Agriculture, our legislature, and our industry makes it a whole lot easier. So with that, I believe Dr. Boney, there you go. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. I'm John Boney. I'm a poultry extension specialist with Penn State Extension. I'm here on behalf of Dean Ott in the College of Agricultural Sciences. Thanks for the opportunity to share a few words. I started at Penn State in 2018, and from day one until we had a positive flock in Pennsylvania, our efforts were focused on preparedness. And as the situation evolved, our efforts had to change. It's been a great pleasure to work in support of this incredibly important industry here in Pennsylvania. I think I was today sent here to talk about the preparedness efforts that have been, as well as some of the research initiatives within the College of Agriculture. There is a poultry extension team within Penn State Extension made up of specialists, of extension educators that are based in counties, in poultry dense counties, and we work together as a group to serve this industry. And the needs of the industry has changed since this outbreak. We have certainly switched gears to looking at biosecurity plans prior to an outbreak, reviewing those plans, suggesting improvements to those plans to help folks prevent the tragedy of having a positive flock. So certainly have spent considerable time there. We also have folks that when avian influenza does happen to appear on a farm, they're boots on the ground. They offer their subject matter expertise, helping with composting efforts and other cleanup efforts on farm. Once again, working hand in hand with the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, the United States Department of Agriculture, folks like Chris Herr and Penn Ag Industries, as well as others in the industry that we represent. And then importantly, the team has dedicated resources to an avian influenza landing page that can be found fairly easily on our Penn State Extension website, where the most relevant and up-to-date information is housed, once again linking to the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture as well as the USDA, so that we have the most relevant information at the fingertips of our stakeholders that we represent here in Pennsylvania. So we're proud of those efforts. On the research side, Dean Ott and I have facilitated several meetings bringing together our research scientists and the folks that work hand in hand with producers in the field, so that our researchers understand the real challenges. They can draft grant proposals that address relevant problems and use those federal dollars in a way that can really help the producers here in Pennsylvania. So with that, once again, in an effort to be prepared, I encourage any of our poultry producers, whether you have a few birds in the backyard to our commercial poultry operations, should you need assistance, should you need access to evidence-based research, know that the Penn State Extension poultry team is certainly positioned to help you. Thank you.
I think I'll just conclude by saying that we're here as partners, but most importantly, we're here to support our farmers. We're here to help. And I'm a farmer, I'm a dairy farmer, not a poultry farmer, but I appreciate all of the work that's done with these partnerships in supporting our ag industry. And with that, we will conclude today. Thank you.
Pennsylvania first detected highly pathogenic avian influenza in 2022, and since then we've seen how quickly it can move. Since April 2022, Pennsylvania has lost more than 7.1 million bird losses in nearby poultry flocks. Pennsylvania was an early adopter of the mandatory milk testing, and through the diligent efforts and partnership with our industry partners, stronger biosecurity than ever, and they are largely stepping up and getting that done. As a veterinarian, I can tell you that biosecurity is still our best defense. Response to high pen ag throughout industry, as well as the resources provided to us by the legislature to accomplish this gargantuan task. Together,